Okay, how is everyone doing today? I want to talk on a little subject that's not covered too much in the sacred name congregation and the ones who know our heritage. But I think we should talk a little bit about it, and that's going to be heritage of the non-Israelites. If you turn with me to Exodus chapter 12, starting in Exodus chapter 12, verse 43. And Yahweh said to Moshe and Aaron, "This is the law of the Passover. No son of a stranger is to eat of it. But any servant, a man who has bought for silver, when you have circumcised him, then let him eat of it. A sojourner and a hired servant does not eat of it. It is eaten in one house, and you are not to take any of the flesh out of the house, nor are you to break any bone of it. And the congregation of Israel are to perform it. But when a stranger sojourns with you and shall perform the Passover to Yahweh, let all of his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and perform it. And he shall be as a native of the land, but no uncircumcised shall eat of it. There is one Torah for the native born and for the stranger who sojourns among you." And all the children did as Yahweh commanded, and Aaron, so they did. And we go to Exodus chapter 20, verse 10. And we're talking about the 10 Commandments. And we're talking about the Sabbath. We start in verse 9 of chapter 20 of Exodus. 6 days you labor and shall do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of Yahweh, your Elohim. You do not do any work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is in your gates. For in 6 days Yahweh made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore Yahweh blessed the seventh day and set it apart. And we go to Leviticus 16, verse 29. And we're talking about the Day of Atonement. "And it shall be for you a law forever. In the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, you afflict your beings and do no work, the native or the stranger who sojourns among you. For in that day he makes atonement for you, to cleanse you, to be clean from all your sins before Yahweh. It is a Sabbath of rest for you, and you shall afflict your beings, a law forever. It is a Sabbath of rest for you, and you shall afflict your beings, a law forever. And a priest who is anointed and ordained to serve as priest in his father's place shall make atonements, and shall put on the linen garments, the set-apart garments. And he shall make atonement for the most set-apart place, and make atonement for the tent of meeting and all the altar, and to make atonement for the priest and for all the people of the assembly. And this shall be for you a law forever, to make atonement for the children of Israel for all their sins once a year, as he did as Yahweh commanded Moses." And in Leviticus 17, verse 8. "And say to him, any man of the house of Israel, or of the stranger who sojourn among you, who offers a burnt offering of slaughtering, and does not bring it to the door of the tent of meeting to do it to Yahweh, that man shall be cut off from among his people. And any man of the house of Israel, or of the strangers who sojourn among you, who eats any blood, I shall set my face against that being who eats blood, and shall cut him off from among the people. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make atonement for your lives. It is the blood that makes atonement for the life. Therefore I said to the children of Israel, no being among you eats blood, nor does any stranger who sojourns among you eat blood. And any man from the children of Israel, from the strangers who sojourn among you, who hunts and catches any beast or bird which is eaten, shall pour out its blood and cover it with dust. For it is the life of all flesh. Its blood is for its life. And I said to the children of Israel, do not eat the blood of any flesh, for it is the life of all flesh is in its blood. Anyone eating it is cut off. And any being who eats the carcass of that which was torn by a beast, be he a native or a stranger, he shall wash his garments and bathe in water, and shall be clean unto evening. Then he shall be clean. But if he does not wash or bathe his body, then he shall bear his crookedness. And we go to Leviticus 19. Leviticus 19, verse 34. Let the stranger, and this is very important, let the stranger who dwells among you be to you as the native among you, and you shall love him as you love yourself. For you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am Yahweh, your Elohim. He signs it. He's telling everyone, no matter who it is, the stranger, the non-Naturalite, the non-Israelite who comes into the congregation, he shall be treated as one of us. And when he performs what Yahweh tells him, he shall be one of us. There shall be no difference. As a matter of fact, it states in one place in the scriptures that the stranger who comes and hears the call of Yahweh, he shall even have a greater name. Do no unrighteousness in right ruling, in measurement, in length, in weight, or in measuring scales. Have right scales, right weights, and right ephod, and right hin. I am Yahweh, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the land of Egypt. You shall guard all my laws and my right rulings, and do them. I am Yahweh. In Leviticus chapter 22, verse 10. And we'll go up a little bit, let's say to Leviticus 22:4, just to get some context. Any man of the offering of Aaron who is a leper, has a discharge, does not eat of set-apart offerings until he is clean. And whoever touches what is rendered unclean by a corpse, or a man who has a emission of semen, or a man who touches any creeping creature by which he would be made unclean, by whom he would become unclean, any of his uncleanness, that being who is touched it shall be unclean until evening. He does not eat of the set-apart offerings, but shall bathe his body in water. And when the sun goes down, he shall be clean, and afterwards eat the set-apart offerings, because it is his food. He does not eat that which dies, or is which torn by beasts, becoming unclean by it. I am Yahweh. And he shall guard my change, lest they bear sin and die thereby, when they profane it. I, Yahweh, set them apart. And no stranger eats of the set-apart offering. A sojourner with a priest or a hired servant does not eat of the set-apart offering. But when a priest buys a being with his money, he does eat it. And one who is born in this house does eat his food. And when a priest's daughter is married to a stranger, she does not eat of the set-apart offering. But when a priest's daughter is a widow or put away and has no child and is returned to her father's house as in her youth, she does eat of her father's food, but no stranger eats it. And it is doing a little set apart here. This stranger is not a naturalized person, not become a part of Israel. They've because it's talking about the priest's daughter leaving her father's house to go be with a stranger. I believe it's talking about a difference in culture here, because Yahweh tells us, we're not to have any part with the strangers and their Elohim and their mighty ones, because there's only one Yahweh. Now, when they come to us and become a part of us, keep our culture and learn about Yahweh and keep His commandments, he is not any longer supposed to be considered a stranger. He's a fellow believer, and he's a part of Israel. Deuteronomy chapter 10. Chapter 10, verse 19. And we'll go up to 17 for context. For Yahweh, your Elohim, is Elohim of mighty ones, Master, the great El, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality, nor takes a bribe. He executes right ruling for the fatherless and the widow, and loves the stranger, giving him food and a garment. And you shall love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Fear Yahweh, your Elohim, serve Him, cling to Him, and swear by His name. He is your praise, He is your Elohim, who has done for you these great and awesome deeds which your eyes have seen. Your fathers went down to Egypt with 70 beans, and now Yahweh, your Elohim, has made you numerous as stars of the heavens. And then we have Deuteronomy 15. Verse 12. And when your brother is sold to you, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, and shall serve you 6 years, then let him go free from you in the 7th year. And when you send him away from you, let him not go empty-handed. You shall richly supply him from your flock and from your threshing floor and from your winepress. That which Yahweh has blessed you with, give it to him. And you shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt. Yahweh your Elohim redeemed you. Therefore I'm commanding you this word today. And it shall be when he says to you, I do not go away from you, because he loves you and your house, because it is good for him with you, then you shall take an awl and thrust it through his ear to the door, and he shall be your servant forever. Do the same with your female servant. But let it not be hard in your eyes when you send him away free from you, for he has been worth double hire servant in serving you 6 years. And Yahweh your Elohim shall bless you in all that you do. And here's the thing, they're talking about a Hebrew servant. Well, what happens when there's a stranger that comes in? He's not a Hebrew servant, and he becomes a slave. When he becomes circumcised, and he shall keep the Passover, shall keep the law of Yahweh, what does he become? Doesn't he become a Hebrew servant? And after he is and becomes a part, doesn't the same law apply to him as it applies to everybody else who is already a native born? Because they say he shall be as the native born. So when the stranger from outside land becomes a slave, and he is circumcised and he partakes of the Passover, he keeps the law of Yahweh, he is to be treated as a Hebrew, So guess what? When he becomes a Hebrew, after this, in the 7th year, he shall be set free, and he shall be supplied generously out of the flock and out of the goods of the master. There's one law for the native born and the stranger. In Deuteronomy 10:19, we just covered that. In Matthew chapter 25. Chapter 25, verse 35. And this is Yeshua talking. We'll go up to where, let's take that to 32. Matthew 25, verse 32. And all the nations shall be gathered before him, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd separates his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. And the sovereign should say to those on his right hand, Come, blessed of you, my Father, inherit the reign prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. But the righteous shall answer him, saying, Master, when did we see you hungry, and we fed you, or thirsty, and gave you to drink? And he did say, And when did we see you a stranger, and took you in, or naked, and clothed you? And when did we see you sick or in prison, came to you? And the sovereign shall answer and say to him, Truly I say to you, insofar as you did it to the least of these of my brethren, you did it to me. And he shall say to those on the left hand, Go away from me, ye accursed, into everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his messengers. For I was hungry, and you gave me no food. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you did not take me in. I was naked, and you did not clothe me. Sick and in prison, you did not visit me. For they shall also answer him, saying, Master, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, did not serve you? And he shall answer him, saying, Truly I say to you, as far as you did not do it to one of the least of these, excuse me, you did not do it to me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into everlasting life. That sounds pretty serious in how we treat those who come to us, who come to be a part of us. We mistreat them. I tell you what, that's I don't want to be in the goat section. I don't want to be on the left hand. But unfortunately, a lot of people seem to think less of those who are not born in the land, who are not a part of us in the beginning, who come to us to be a part and to keep Yahweh's commandments. And we go to Romans chapter 12. Romans chapter 12, verse 10 through 13. And brotherly love, tenderly loving towards one another, and appreciation, giving preferences to each other, not idle on duty, ardent in spirit, and serving the master, rejoicing in the expectancy, enduring under pressure. Continue steadfastly in prayer, imparting to the needs of the set-apart ones, pursuing kindness towards a stranger. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice, and weep with those who weep. Be of the same mind towards one another. Do not be proud in mind, but go along with the low. Do not be wise in your own estimation. Repay no one evil for evil. Respect that which is right in the sight of all men. if possible on your part, be at peace with all men. Beloved, do not revenge yourselves, but give place to the wrath, for it has been written, Vengeance is mine, and I shall repair, says Yahweh. Instead, if your enemy hungers, feed him. If he thirsts, give him a drink, for in doing so you will heap coals of fire upon his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Now we're going to conclude here in just a minute. Colossians chapter 3, verse 11. And I go up to, let's see. Let's go to Colossians 3. Let's go to verse 6 for context. Because of these, the wrath of Elohim has come upon the sons of disobedience, in which you once walked when you lived in them. He's talking about the sons of disobedience. He's not talking about necessarily now, were you born of Jacob? Were you born of Ham? Were you born of Japheth? He's talking about right here, obedience and disobedience. How do we know we're Israelites? If we're obedient to His commandments. How do we know if we're non-Israelites? We've read where several places where if we are disobedient, we are cut off. Verse 7, in which you also once walked when you lived in them. But now also put off all these: displeasure, wrath, evil, blasphemy, filthy talk from your mouth. Do not lie to each other, since you have put off the old man with his practices, and have put on the new one, who is renewed in knowledge according to the likeness of him who created him. Where there is not Greek and Jew, circumcised and uncircumcised, foreigner, Scythian, slave, free, but Messiah is all and in all. Therefore, as chosen ones of Elohim, set apart and beloved, put on compassion, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness and patience, bearing with one another and forgiving each other. If anyone has a complaint against another, indeed as Messiah forgave you, so should you. But above all these, put on love, which is a bond of perfection, and let the peace of Elohim rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be filled with thanks. Let the word of Messiah dwell in you richly, teaching, admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing with pleasure in your hearts to the Master in songs of praise and spiritual songs. And whatever you do in word or deed, do all in the name of the Master Yeshua, giving thanks to Elohim the Father in Him. May Yahweh bless you on this wonderful Sabbath day.